Folks, let's rank every single weapon in Season 8 of the finals. Alright, now before I start ranking these weapons, there's a couple of things that I want to point out. So first of all, I'm ranking each weapon based off of their viability in-game. I'm not looking at some spreadsheet with TTKs and damage numbers, but rather I'm going to look at how each weapon fits into the current meta, and I'll be comparing them to other choices of weapons within their classes. So for example, why would you pick the M60 when the Shack or the Lewis gun is an option? Can you play this weapon on every map, or is it situation dependent? These are the kind of questions that I'll be asking myself when I'm ranking each weapon. And while this is the perfect tier list for me, it mightn't be for you. So if you would have done anything differently, please let me know in the comment section. But any comment or feedback is welcome. Alright, so let's start. Alright, so the first weapon on the list, the 93R. I want to keep S tier exclusive, but this has to go up here. And this is, in my opinion, this is the best light weapon in the game. It's an all-rounder, and the one thing that really stands out about it to me is its ability to 2-burst a light. 2 bursts, a light is dead. Strong against mediums. Versus heavies, you have to be hitting a couple of headshots, but realistically, any map, any situation, this is a really solid choice. Alright, now FCAR is the next weapon. Looking at mediums weapons this season, the PIKE would have always been an S tier, but since it got nerfed, it won't be. The FCAR for me probably is the strongest medium weapon this season. So, can I put it any lower than S tier? Probably not, so I'll have to leave it up in the S tier. The gun just slaps. Like, the recoil is easy to control. It's super strong against lights and mediums. Versus heavies, you have to watch your reload. You have to watch for the dome. But realistically, I can't put it any lower because it probably is the outlier weapon for medium right now. If you had to just pick one weapon, the FCAR for me would be it. Shack 50. Another weapon which I just can't put any lower than S tier. If you're a light, you can't take a trade versus this weapon. If you're a medium, it's going to be very difficult. And if you're another heavy, you either have to run the SA or else you're sitting back at a range with something like the BFR. M60, I have to go to this point. Why would you pick the M60 when you could pick the Shack or the Lewis gun? I know it has the extra rounds and it's an easy weapon to just pick up and use, but like, even the damage, it just doesn't feel strong enough to compete with some of these other weapons. I really don't see a use case for this weapon above those weapons, and for that reason I'm going to actually knock it down to B tier. Alright, now the FAMAS, in my opinion, is not as strong as the FCAR, but I can't rank it too much lower than it. I'm going to put it in A tier. I know people are going to say that it deletes lights and it's super easy to use, it's strong, and it is. It's a very strong weapon. It's not as nice as the FCAR in long range. And I know that the FAMAS has a certain playstyle where you can peek corners, burst, head glitch burst, that kind of thing. But for right now, I'm going to put it into A tier, the very top of A tier, and potentially move it into S tier later on. AK, the very same situation. It's very strong, nearly as good as the FCAR, but it's got this right to left recoil at the start of it, and it's just weird, it's awkward, it messes up your long range static beams. And while some people mightn't understand what I mean by that, take it into the practice range and try and beam a target at long range. You'll notice there's this kind of C curve that goes right and then left at the start of it. If you've got that down and you've got that consistent, then it's going to be a very strong weapon. But the FCAR is just easier to control and it does do more damage. ARN, I want to get back to that. I want to get to this weapon now. Straight into S tier. This thing is demonic. One of my teammates, Quicks, dropped 40 kills in his first ranked game with this weapon. It absolutely slaps. We've got the second update of the season and they still have not nerfed it. So it's easily going to become a contender with the SA-12 for the best heavy weapon. 2 shots of light, the headshot damage is insane. The range on it is equally as good as the PIKE and it does more damage. So the only difficulty to this weapon is the close range fights and being able to control the reload. Because once you get down to your last bullet with this gun, it's kind of like the model. It's a slow reload to get back, and if you want to consistently shoot at people, it does feel awkward. But regardless of those flaws, this is easily an S tier weapon and potentially the second best heavy weapon in the game. Now the ARN, put it into A tier. I'm not a big fan of this weapon, if I'm being honest, although I do understand that it's good and it is very strong in its particular use case. It's easy to control, it does great damage at long range, but you have to shoot first with this weapon. And so if you play Cloak or Invis, this is going to be super strong because the majority of times you're going to get the first shot off and you can take a trade with any other player, especially with the quick reload. However, Dash is meta right now, and with Dash, you don't always get the first shot off. So if you have the ARN and you're trading with another light, he's using the 93R, XP, V9S, LH1, you're not winning that trade if he's a good player. Same thing with any medium. and don't even think about trading with a heavy. The ARN is not that strong of a weapon if you have to take a direct trade with another player. But for the playstyle of sitting back, getting chip damage and beaming with invis cloak, throwing glitches, then yeah, it's a strong weapon, but just not S tier in my opinion. Lewis gun, A tier, very strong weapon, but it's just outclassed by Shaq, BFR, and as you'll see shortly, the SA-12. Alright, now the minigun. This is the second most underrated weapon in the game, in my opinion. Just based off of my principles of being viable on every map and every situation, I'm going to leave it in B tier, but I'm putting it right ahead of the M60. But it's definitely hugely underrated, and I think that a good heavy can do a really nice job with this weapon. M11. Now, I'm a light man, so this might seem biased, but this has to be S tier. The weapon hasn't got nerfed in how many seasons, and while it is one of the most difficult weapons to control in the game, this is worth the investment. It is easily the best weapon to pick if you need to diff another light. It's a very similar playstyle to the double barrel, except it does allow for more mistakes and it has more range. So for me, this has to be S tier. XP is, however, very strong. I'm going to put it right ahead of the ARN. For me, it's easily better than the ARN. Close range, it beats it. Mid range, it beats it. Long range, you lose to the ARN. However, there's so many more situations where I prefer to have the XP than the ARN, especially playing Dash, which is meta. Its one downfall, however, is the reload time. It just takes so long to reload compared to the M11, compared to the ARN. Double barrel, my OG El Homo followers will know that I'm a big fan of this weapon. So, can I put it lower than B tier? Absolutely not. Can I put it into S tier? No way. It's definitely an A tier weapon though. Now, it can work on every map, but it won't work in every situation, and so you have to have a good heavy with you that can hook the cash out into a good location so that you know where you're in control. For the fact alone that it doesn't take more than 2 shots to kill any of the other classes, A tier. P90, I'll put it A also. So it melts in close range, you have enough ammo to shoot through a dome shield and complete the kill on a heavy. The constant pressure that you can put on without having to reload is very unique, and it's not something that the FCAR or any of the other 2 weapons can offer for medium. So definitely A tier, but just not quite strong enough to be S tier in my opinion. M26, I've been up and down with this weapon. Now, being able to shoot 8 shots consistently and reload all 8 shots in one go is very strong, and it does hit hard. I just don't see it being as strong as the DB. It definitely has a similar use case to the double barrel, just not as strong, so I'm going to put it below it. Alright, now we have even more shotguns. The model, it once was the best weapon in the game. They've messed around with it a lot, increased its range, gave it extra ammo. It now has 7 shots instead of 6. But for me, why would you use this gun over P90, and why would you use it over the repeater, which is essentially the same gun but with more range? But right now, with heal beam being meta and the heal gun, this thing is just too slow and requires way too much consistency to be any higher than B tier. SA-12, absolutely S tier. I don't really think there's much to say about this. I'm going to put it up, best weapon in the game. Now, moving on to something interesting. I said that the minigun was the most underrated heavy weapon in the game. The V9S is the most underrated weapon in the entire game. Now, I'm not going to be crazy and put it into S tier, but I'm putting it into A tier. Actually, I'm going to put it ahead of the XP as well. Honestly, I don't even think anyone can argue with me about this because as far as I can tell, I'm probably one of 5 people who are aware that this weapon is still in the game. This thing slaps. Close to mid-range, it melts lights, it melts mediums. The reload is super fast. The headshot multiplier is decent. There's no recoil. And for some reason, there's some misconception that it's not effective at long range. It is effective at long range. Actually, it's more effective than both the XP and the 9.3 are at long range. The only flaw that this weapon has, in my opinion, is the fact that you need warm hands to use it. Because if your trigger finger isn't blasting, then it's just outright useless. But anyone that puts this below B tier just hasn't seen how strong it is and just really hasn't given it a go, because it is stronger than both the XP and the ARN. It's just weird how one revolver can be S tier and the other one can be borderline B tier. Now, will I put it B tier? Yeah, I will, because realistically, it's just not that bad of a weapon. The use case is just limited. So yeah, there's not much to say about it. I've been over this before. DEAGLES, I suck with these, but I've seen some top mouse and keyboard players using this, and they really can be effective. So if you're not quite there with the BFR, DEAGLES are not a bad choice. Sniper, put it into C tier. The sniper does what it does and it's a strong weapon, but just coming back to the principles, I mean, other than Kyoto, there's really no situation where you would ever take this into a ranked game. So all I can say is it's a C tier weapon. LH1, I'm so happy to say this thing is back. It's not S tier, but it's up here and it's right behind the V9S for me. Used to be the best weapon in the game, but a lot of people have just forgot how to use it. But I've seen a lot of people try to pick it back up and they haven't been able to get the hang of it. For me, it's great in mid to long range, and it actually is strong in close range. The only thing you have to be aware of is the way that you dash. It loses accuracy when your feet are not touching the ground, so be ready to plant your feet and spam crouch, because that's how it needs to be used, and people have forgotten this. This is the only reason why why you don't see more top lights using this weapon, is because they just simply forgot that your feet need to be planted, and they've gotten so used to using the 9-3R where you can dash and stay shooting. The bow, it's had so many buffs that it does outclass a sniper, but it's not going any higher than C tier. Yeah, you might one trick it and think that you're the best bow player in the world, but for the majority of people, I want them to be able to look at this tier list and see what weapon is worth their time. The bow is just going to make you go bald. Pike would have been in its own tier above all weapons last season, but this season, since they nerfed the damage below 50, it can no longer 3-shot a light. It actually won't even kill a light in 2 headshots anymore. So, to be honest, any good light is going to bully you if you're using Pike. So, this is B tier. There's very few situations where this is viable. I'll leave it ahead of the model and the revolver, because it still is definitely better than those weapons. Now the repeater, on the other hand, similar playstyle to the Pike, it's A tier. The repeater is essentially the model and the Pike combined together, and maybe the revolver stuck a finger in there too. And I think since this season the Pike is gone and medium doesn't have that outlier weapon, you will see some top mediums pick this up and give it a real go. So we might see some players realize its potential this season. CL40 never has been, never will be top meta and ranked, but it's actually really not that bad of a weapon, especially if you have to counter riot shields or something. Now I think I'm being very generous putting it into B tier, but compared to these weapons, it's really not that far off. And it actually does bring a bit of value if you have to counter a riot shield or dual blades. Now this, on the other hand, it is not comparable to this CL40. I'm sorry, I'll give it D tier. For the one guy out there who does use it, I won't put it into F tier. But I really don't have much to say about this. Hook is meta. This tier list is based on ranked. Obviously, you can do a job in World Tour with this, but Cerberus, it used to be actually a good weapon. It used to be a hard counter to the lights and used to be decent versus mediums. But in order to rank any weapon into B tier, you have to be able to kill all of the other classes. And while you could kill a light and you might be able to kill a medium with this thing actually lacks the ability to kill a heavy. So the Cerberus really is just poor weapon design. If you buff it too much, it becomes ridiculous versus lights. And if you nerf it, it can't kill a heavy. It really should have never been added to the game. Dagger is a troll weapon. If you one trick this weapon, yeah, you might have some success with it, but is it worth the effort? If you want to reach and secure Ruby as fast as possible, absolutely not. You're just going to have a horrible time and want to uninstall the game. The sword is hot trash. I'll put it into C tier. If I'm defending a cash out and it's a 3v3 scenario, I'm not losing to a sword. The only time when this thing works is in third-party scenarios with at least one bad team involved and chaos is being created. In that situation, yeah, a sword can come in and get a couple of kills, but versus good teams, especially in Season 8, where people have a lot more awareness, their positioning is better, people know how to play the game, their monitors are turned on. Nah, bro, like a sword is never going to be a problem. I had this thing in my head for a long time that these sword players, dagger, bow, throwing knives, they all have this thing in their head that if they lose, they can just say, oh, well, I just don't want to use meta weapons. That's why I'm losing. But for the sake of my tier list, which is based off of consistent viability in ranked cash out on the finals, this thing is a C tier weapon. Don't argue with me. Dual blades. Now I didn't want to use F tier, but actually since it is there, I may as well use it. No range, no value, no damage, no speed boost. If you block, I go behind you and shoot your head. Riot shield, ironically, is a lot better than dual blades. It does damage. The range is not too bad. The hitbox is broken. I have to consciously think about how I'm going to counter you in the next round. However, if you use the riot shield, you lose aura and I gain confidence and I know that you're a bad player. So realistically, you're not going any higher than C tier. Sledgehammer, just out of pure respect, I'll put it into B tier. Spear, D tier. It's just a much worse version of the sledgehammer. Throwing knives, hot trash, put into C tier. Insane headshot multiplier, damage is not too bad, but it has like a broken hit reg issue, so half the knives you throw don't even register. So I mean, KS23 had a nice buff. Its hit scan beneath 20 meters, so it's really not that bad of a weapon. It's not A tier, I'll leave it in B tier, and realistically, if you're insane with the KS23, you're going to be cracked out of your mind on the BFR Titan. Flamethrower, like, really good players will never use this because it's just not strong enough, but it's really not a bad weapon, and it has to be the most consistent weapon in the game. Is it better than Sledgehammer? No. Is it better than any of these weapons up here? No. C tier. But looking at that now, that's the end of our tier list, and I'm very happy with it actually. S tier is quite exclusive. We only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weapons. The only one of these weapons that's kind of outlying to me a little bit is the M11, but I know its potential and I know it's an S tier weapon, so I'm leaving it up here. And I did say I was going to move the FAMAS and AKM up later on in the tier list potentially. Looking at it now, I'm not going to do that. This is my tier list. I know in my head that the FCAR is better than both these weapons, so all the top beamers know that this thing is stronger. For the purposes of this video and this tier list, I want you to see the differences in these weapons. But for any new players who are starting the finals in Season 8, if you're seeing this tier list, go ahead and play any of these weapons, and I guarantee you'll have a fun time with most of them. But if you're one of these players who wants to play ranked and wants to get into the game in a way that you want to see your own progression, then I would recommend looking from A tier above. A to S tier, any of these weapons are definitely going to be worth your time investing in. If you go below A tier, you're going to have fun because the finals is a fun game, but you're going to be putting yourself at a disadvantage depending on the map and situation that you're playing on. This video is intended for players of all capabilities, all ranks, and even if you don't touch ranked, this should still give you an indication of what's going on, what's meta, and maybe give you an answer to why you're losing trades in your game of Quick Cash or World Tour or whatever it is that you're playing. But anyways, if you would have done anything differently, feel free to leave it in the comment section down below. If you stuck around for the whole video, thank you very much. You don't have to like or subscribe, but it would be appreciated, and I will see you next time.